Welcome back to CFB Nation. I am your host, Nino Brown, and I got my guy, you know him, aka Mr. Get It Done, D now. And when you see us on the screen, you know what it means. It's Devy Dollins time. Dino, how we doing? My head's spinning from this portal stuff, bro.
I know. I was just about to say every so often you see rumors someone's entering just to find out it's fake. We had that scare with Noah Fafita, but yeah, it's that time of the year. It's always going to be a whirlwind.
Yeah, Fafita's staying, Wegman's going. The names they just keep popping up as we keep going on. Now Connor Harrell from UNC, he's in the portal too. I think in the next 48 hours, we're going to see a lot more bigger names. We were expecting. It was the the middle of the pack. Now we're starting to see these guys, but hopefully this gentleman, and I think he's going to stay home. He has the possibility to be a Devy Dollar, and I just love his game. We'll get to the player comps. I think there's a gentleman that was at the school. He might be able to hit that ladder of player progression. So let's hop right into it. This Devy Dollar is Nick Marsh, 6'3", 209, 4-star wide receiver. He was the 30th ranked wide receiver in this 2024 class. You know how I feel about these rankings, and I think when all the dust and smoke settles, I think he might be in the top 15 of this class. What are your thoughts there before I go on?
Yeah, I think he's not going to be in that top tier of the wide receivers like Smith, Coleman, Williams. I think he's going to be one of the top wide receivers in that second tier.
That's absolutely the 9 to 15. I think that's where he falls in.
He may even crack higher than 9. Yeah, I mean 6, 7 probably is the. If Childs can develop,
I was just going to say his development will obviously go hand in hand laterally with Marsh's development as well. So we'll have to see. But yeah, like I said, he's a Michigan kid, right? River Rouge, hometown Detroit. He was the number 3 ranked player in all of Michigan in his class of 2024. Top 200 kid. 3 sports, right? Track and field, basketball, football. 6'3", 210, 209. I mean, 23.23 200 meter and 11.37. I know that's not blowing the doors off of it, but at that size, when
you're 200 pounds, that's blowing the doors off of
it. People see the 11, that's not moving that fast. He's 200 pounds. He's 6'3".
Yeah,
that moves like a gazelle out there. It's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? He played in the U.S. Army Bowl. This guy was first team Michigan High School FBC Association. He was 2-time MLive Metro Detroit Dream Team. He was captain of the Detroit Free Press Dream Team. I mean, he's got all the accolades, and high school stats kind of back it up. I think so anyway. What are your thoughts? So talk to me about his high school time.
Yeah. So before I get into that, knowing a little bit about the Detroit high school range, just because it's just up the road from me, he plays in a really tough conference. River Rouge is in a really tough conference. I mean, you got Detroit Cast that's right there that always pumps out Division I athletes. So just wanted for the viewers to know that he plays some top tier defenses.
Superior, talent.
Yeah, so to be the number 3 ranked player in Michigan in that kind of conference, that's big kudos. But his time at River Rouge, junior year, 57 receptions, 723 yards, 6 touchdowns. Senior year, little drop in receptions, 41, but kind of stayed the same yard-wise, 718. He had 8 touchdowns senior year, but he also had 314 kick return yards and a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And the cherry on top, he had a passing touchdown as well.
He's an athlete. I mean, that's hands down. I mean, when you look at like recent guys, he's kind of like a Keon Coleman, but just a little bit more football skill.
Yeah,
and that's not a knock to Coleman. I'm just, a lot of people wanted Keon Coleman to be something he really wasn't.
No, that's a good comp. I mean, that's not even going to be one of our comps.
Right.
That's a good comp.
Yeah, I just think he has more NFL talent, more football talent than Coleman. But yeah, I mean, this kid just knows football. Just knows where to be and knows where to be to make others better on the field, if that makes sense. He knows how to draw defenses away to give another guy a one-on-one or exploit the coverage. So I really like his game. Big body receiver, right? Athlete, like we just talked about. He's got that top end speed. which is you see him and you're like, I got this. I can press him. Don't press him. You're gonna lose because unless you're the same size or a muscular build, he's probably gonna throw you to the ground or win that press. And if by chance you did get to press him, you better have that speed because he's gonna get by you off the press. He's gonna make a move. And he's gonna get by you up. Now you're trailing. Right now you exerted all your energy at the press, and now you're trailing. It's crazy. What he can do for that size. Good hands. Obviously, with the size, it's contested catch ability. He won a lot of them, and he was hurt. This year he missed a couple of games, but he doesn't have that fear. He gives me that like George Pickens go up in this. I'll go get it no matter what. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to go get it. I know I'm better than you type vibe to him, just not as cocky as Pickens is. You know what I mean? But he's on the field. He knows he's that guy. He adjusts to off-target throws. Like, he makes some of these like throws that Childs had this year that were kind of probably, someone of not his quality receiver doesn't make that catch. And people talk about, Childs again off the mark. He can make up for that. You know what I mean? And it's an attribute to his game. He's physical and he's a mismatch nightmare. When you got a guy size, speed, athleticism like that, I mean, that's like 777 on a slot machine. You just hit the jackpot. So, talk to me about the offers that he got. And what are your thoughts on his attributes and things that kind of stick out to you?
Yeah. I'm just going to hit on this one mismatch nightmare.
Yeah.
They played him in the slot when they played Iowa, and he single-handedly torched Iowa. He had, I want to say, 8 or 9 catches,
a touchdown,
over 100 yards, a touchdown. Like,
he scored this touchdown in the slot, and he smoked 2 dudes.
Yeah. He smoked Nestor, who was supposed to be one of the upcoming corners for Iowa, and he just made him look silly that entire game. So I wouldn't hate if Michigan State played him more in the slot going forward just because of his size. But like
sometimes sometimes, and I don't want to be negative Nancy or splitting hairs here, but there's sometimes where I feel like, and I go back to the Keon Coleman thing, where I feel like he just thinks his athleticism will win the play no matter what. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he may not go 100%. Well, I think as we see him season in college football, that coaching will get that out of the system. And
right.
I mean, so, but I like I said, I think attributes, he's checking a lot of boxes.
Yeah, which is scary because I mean he's still got so much room to grow in his game. But like you said, as for offers, he had 30 offers. Big name schools. Michigan State, he was recruited by Courtney Hawkins. Auburn, which is scary to think about if he would have gone to Auburn with Coleman. He was recruited by Marcus Daniels. He had Kentucky, Oregon, Oklahoma, Miami, Boston College, Michigan, where Ron Bellamy was his recruiter. And like I said, so many more. All the big name schools wanted him.
Like Michigan had to get that, right?
Yeah, to lose to a talent like this to the little brother, that had to sting.
It's a slap in the face.
Yeah. But I mean, even scared, like looking at this list, like I said, Auburn with Coleman would have been scary. But I mean, imagine if this could have cracked Oregon's wide receiver room as well.
Maybe if Evan Stewart didn't transfer, there's a chance that we might have been talking about him in the green and gold. So
I mean, man, just seeing this kid in like an offense that could push the ball pass game wise a little bit more than Michigan State did is a scary thought.
Lead this kid, lead him, right? If you can find a guy that can lead him with a strong arm and like get everything in front of him. Or
if he was the big body wide receiver with Key and Brown down in Kentucky, even with their speed, that could have been a game changer as well.
Yeah. Because then you got 2 guys that just pull everything away from him, and he's stretching the field. So I love that right there. I mean, in Michigan, like I said, he had a good freshman year. I mean, for most people that check that freshman wide receiver box, I mean, he kind of checked them all. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns, so that was kind of the negative on thing. But he missed, I want to say, 3 or 4 games. He missed the game against Boston College. I was hoping to see him. He didn't play in that game. But he had 41 receptions, 649 yards, 3 touchdowns, like I mentioned. In a room that's kind of up and down, right? Like, I think his biggest threat in this receiving room is the tight end and Jack Felling. And he kind of had an off year. I think coaching played a big part. Jonathan Smith kind of looked like he might have been confused, checked out a little bit in some of these games this year. I think his Oregon State Pac-12 style of play didn't translate to the Big Ten. I think there'll be some adjustments this season coming up, and we'll have to see what happens. But Montessori Foster emerged as kind of like the guy, really, besides Nick Marsh. Jaron Glover, another guy was hobbled by injury, but he was the guy that kind of stepped in the Boston College game. Then they had the freshman Isaiah Johnson, Antonio Gates Jr., the sophomore. He really kind of been non-existent. Only had 4 receptions for 49 yards. Like I said, Jack Felling, 400 yards, 40 receptions. So there is a little bit of competition in the room, right? But he's the guy. He's the star. When it's those third down plays, those go-to plays where you need it. You need a first down. You need a big catch. You need some momentum to swing. He's the guy you're going to. And I think he wants that. I think he owns that. And he owned it this year in the games where he did kind of emerge. He was like, okay, there was a lot of late game. The last game he played, no, it was just 3 games, this third to last game. Touchdown in the end zone to win the game, right? Against Iowa, it was late in the game where he scored the touchdown as well. So he's that late game, ESPN Sports Center type player at the wide receiver department, I think. All right, let's get to this player comps. I threw one in, and he was kind of chalk here. Plaxico, size. Plaxico, had sneaky speed. He had some pull-away speed that you didn't really, see, especially in the NFL when he was on the Giants, man. There were some games that he kind of just took off away from guys. The Patriots, he killed us in the Super Bowl in that game. So, Plaxico had almost 2,000 yards in his career, 120 receptions, 17 touchdowns. I could see, something like that in a 2-year span out of Marsh being that type of receiver. Another guy that I liked, crosstown rival, kind of fits it more, and I really think that he could be this, maybe not, top 10 pick, but the style of play in college anyway. David Terrell out of Michigan, 2,000 yards, almost 20 touchdowns overall in his career there. He big body guy, always went up there, made those big catches, wanted to be the guy to end games for Michigan. I feel like Marsh is that kid. And then my sneaky guy that probably people aren't thinking about, had a decent career in the NFL in Dallas as being a guy that came in when they were going with wide receivers that nobody really knew, right? Because Miles Austin was kind of the starter, and then you had this gentleman, Sammy Aiken, out of North Carolina.
That's a name I hadn't heard in a long time. I had to look him up after I was reading the docket. I was like, oh yeah,
4th rounder, right? But I mean, in college, at UNC, he had almost 2,200 yards, almost 150 receptions, and he had 15 touchdowns. I mean, he falls anywhere in that bracket. If Aiken's the ceiling, and Plaxico's mid, and Terrell college-wise is the top, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with every one of those guys. What are your thoughts on the comps? And give me yours.
I love the Terrell pick. I think that's probably the most spot-on comp that we've done in a long time. Plaxico Burress, I love that. One of mine, I think, is kind of along the same lines as Plaxico Burress. But yeah, that Terrell pick, I think, like I said, is probably one of the most spot-on ones.
If you put them side by side, like body structure, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so much similarities to each other.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start with my out there one, since you kind of started with your out there one. Another Michigan Stater. And I'm going to preface this is college, because this name is one of the biggest busts NFL wise. I'm going to go with Charles Rogers out of Michigan State. I mean, just if you rewatch the intro, a lot of his zigzagging down the field, big body wide receiver, just screams Charles Rogers to me.
I loved him in college. He was
he was a dog in college.
Kind of like a Justin Blackman to me. Then he got to the NFL, and
and it just other things preoccupied him.
Yes.
So my next one, I kind of added a second half to this while we were talking. I think he's kind of a hybrid of Malcolm Floyd and Jeff Samardzija from Notre Dame. Both big body, elusive wide receivers. I put Jeff Samardzija just because he was sneaky fast.
He was a multi-sport. Didn't he get drafted baseball wise too?
Chicago Cubs pitcher, had 10+ year career in the MLB. I mean, there was a reason why they called him the shark in there. He was sneaky and he was going to be lethal. But then the big body frame, the contested catch aspect of it just screamed Malcolm Floyd to me. That's what got him to the league before he had his incidents there too. But you could always count if someone had to go up and get it. Malcolm Floyd was your guy for Notre Dame. So those are my comps.
I love them. I mean, before they kill me, I know Lance Stallworth was the original Charger wide receiver, but the modern day big body Charger wide receiver had to kind of be Malcolm Floyd. And then if you look at Floyd, to every kind of
or Vincent Jackson
after that, Vincent Jackson, Keenan Allen, like everybody kind of fell that Malcolm Floyd kind of like style of receiver that the Chargers went and drafted. Big body guy, go up and get it. They never hit on the slot guy, and they never hit on the running back to succeed Austin Eckler. You know, when they draft them, they kept getting either one of those guys every year. They kept trying to get one. Samaje, I like because of the athleticism. Samaje played outside, played in the slot as well, and did well. And he was a dude, loved getting hit, didn't give a shit.
And it's like, while we're on the Samaje, so thinking about like how had he decided to stay with football, how scary it could have been if Charles Rogers would have panned out, because then the following year, they had a number one wide receiver again in Megatron. And the year after that, if the records would have stayed the same, Samaje might have been the number one draft pick at the same time. Like how nasty that wide receiver room could have been.
You think Samaje could have went in the first round?
Oh, 100%. He would have been a top 5 draft pick for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think he went the Charlie
Ward. I think he made the right route.
Charlie Ward too. Charlie Ward played the NBA for what, like a dozen years, dude?
Yeah.
I feel like they made the best decision, but like the athleticism, boom. That's right there.
Elite.
Yeah, top notch. I love it. All right, my guy. I think we got little wide receiver coming up next week. Gentleman, I think he's out of Wyoming, right? CJ.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be talking about that guy, and we got a lot of guys that you may not be aware of coming down the pipeline soon. But again, this is CFB Nation. I'm your host, Dino Brown. That's my right-hand man, Dino. This is Devy Downs. We out.